no!
Hello again, everyone. I'm Germain, host of INFOcus People and Places. Welcome back. We've got a busy show for you today. We're going to be talking with the director of the Ilsley Public Library, David Clark, about libraries in general, the Ilsley, what they're all about, the services, what goes on behind the scenes of your favorite local library. We will find out all about that coming up. Also, Middlebury Police Officer George Merkel will be joining us with his dog, Blade. You know Blade, you love Blade. We're going to find out all about canine units, all the training that goes into it, and all that kind of stuff there with the Middlebury Police Department. Officer George Merkel and Blade joining us a little bit later on in the show. And Compost King Don Maglienti from the Addison County Solid Waste Management District will be here to talk about, yeah, you guessed it, compost. All that and much more coming up on the program. And of course, remember our website to find out more about current, past, future shows, all the information about what goes on behind the scenes here at INFOcus People and Places. Go to infocusvt.com. We'll be back with the director of the Ilsley Public Library, Mr. David Clark, in just a moment.
Hello, I'm David Pitkin from Chestertown, New York, regular guest on Jerry Germain's INFOcus show. Some of you may be familiar with my book, Ghost of the Northeast, which has some real good Vermont ghost stories in it. I'm looking for Vermont ghost stories for my next book, which will be New England Ghosts, that should be out in the fall of 2009. If you have a good story and you'd like to get in touch with me, go to Jerry's website, infocusvt.com, for the details.
Welcome back, everyone. As promised, we're going to find out about libraries right now on INFOcus People and Places. Joining me, boy, you worked up a sweat walking up the stairs. Not too far from your office.
It's a long way here.
Yeah, for people that don't realize it, the studios that were on the top floor of the Ilsley Public Library.
Yeah.
Right in the heart of downtown Middlebury. You're the director, and you've been the director for, my goodness, I remember when you came to town, but it's been several years now.
I think you were in diapers back then, weren't you?
Okay, maybe not that far back. I'm not that young.
It's been about 11 years.
Oh, 11 years,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And you've been director. How did you become director of the Ilsley?
I passed the test.
There's a test, huh?
Oh, there's a test. Before this job, I was working as a consultant with the Department of Libraries here in Vermont. And back then, they had 5 regional libraries, and I was the one in charge of the Chittenden, Franklin, Grand Isle portion of the state. And I got the job down here, and after me, they closed up the regional. It's one of those things. Have a great time here. Middlebury, as you know, everybody knows, it's a unique community. We have things here that are not anywhere else, and very supportive, a very interested population who enjoy information, enjoy reading, discussing, and it's a gem of a job.
And we're glad you're here and have stayed for 11 years and hopefully longer. David, let's talk about libraries in general. It's something that we take for granted, I think. I mean, there's always libraries there. We can always go and take out books, or, as we'll get to. I mean, you have many other services as well. It's libraries have become more than just books here in the 21st century. But we heard about libraries back in ancient Egypt, the Cairo libraries. I mean, I'm sure ancient Greece had them. Yeah. Have there always been libraries, and is the philosophy still the same, providing the written word to people? I know that is very deep and broad.
That's a good question. Yeah, lots of good questions there. I oftentimes tell people I've been in this business now for over 30 years, and I often say that there's not a more exciting time than what we're in right now. And yet, we've always been saying, since I've been in the business, libraries are more than books. Right. I can remember when we started out, we had LPs, we had the beginning of cassettes, we had all that stuff. The whole expansion of information in other media besides just the print. And of course now with the internet, which is a wonderful add-on to the way we do it. I was reading an article in the New York Times the other day about Wikipedia. Mm-hmm. And how they were sort of comparing Wikipedia with the Encyclopedia Britannica. Britannica has, let's say this many words in the 30-volume set. Wikipedia has this many words in something like 200 languages. Mm-hmm. What that does is open up the world of information to everybody. In fact, they were also talking about that they are developing an encyclopedia of life, which will have all the information about every living organism in the universe that they can find. It's a huge amount of information that is available whether you live in Brooklyn, whether you live in Chile, if wherever around the world, you can get access to that. Mm-hmm. And we see ourselves increasingly as a place where people can get access and then help in sort of sorting through that and maneuvering it, and how do you do all this stuff, and that's I think why library work for me continues to stay fascinating, and I think very relevant to the needs and the lifestyles of people today. Mm-hmm.
I think that we are truly blessed here in Middlebury, especially. I mean, we like to think of ourselves as a small town, but we have so much information here in town, this being a college town, with the college up on the hill and the library up there. I mean, there are just so many places to go and so much information that residents of this area have access to.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think as we begin to develop even more services, one of the newest services that we've begun to offer is downloading audios. For years now, we've offered people to borrow books that are on either a cassette or a CD. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they come in here, they physically get that object, they take it home, they put it in their cassette in their car, or they put it on their Walkman, and to listen to a story, a poem, a play, whatever, and of course music. Well, of course, now over the last couple of years, they're putting that all on the internet. That instead of getting the actual physical piece, you can download that audio text into your, what they call, portable device. Right. And we've now begun to offer this in a consortium of 80 libraries around Vermont. So that all you need is a library card, and if your library participates in it, and I think there are 11 libraries in Addison County that are participating: Starksboro, New Haven, Bristol Elementary School, Mount Abe High School, and there's more that I can't remember. But what you do is you just go into the website, select what you'd like, and it's Amazon and those other websites have just completely colored our way of looking at how shopping should be, and it's very much organized on the same way. So you find your selections, you can read about it, you can hear little snippets of it, proceed to the checkout counter, and you check out, and then you select the library that you're a member of, put in the library card, and then you can download it. It's an amazing, it's an amazing thing for us. And we now have about 250 titles in that collection now. We hope by the end of the year to have 500. Next year we hope to have another 500. So the collection is going to grow. It's each item is segmented in I think 20-minute or something segments, 40 minutes I guess, so that even if you're on a dial-up at home, that you can download these books section by section. But that's a fascinating thing that is indicative of that many of the services that we're going to offer in the future are going to be accessible from home, from your work place, that you don't need to physically come into the building, that we communicate now with many of our people on email. People will email us from our website a book that they don't see in our catalog, and they say, can I get this one? Or, so we'll either buy it or we'll maybe borrow it. And we do that just all electronically. And then we email them when it comes in. We say it's right here for you. If it's like an article, some information like that, they'll say, I'm looking up, something on dehumidifiers that I'm looking. What information do you have on that? And we've looked that up for folks, and we've emailed them the articles from Consumer Reports or wherever.
Right.
And so, that kind of service, I think, is what libraries in the future are all going to be about.
Just like any other business, any other organization, you have to keep up with the times.
Oh, yeah, all the way. And we're very conscious of that. I mean, when people, it's just the way that our lives are these days. We work a lot. We don't have a lot of time in the traditional sense, and so things have to be quick. They have to be exactly what you want. And if you don't get it here, there are plenty of choices in town and around the world. So we've got to address ourselves to those needs of folks right away.
Talk about your East Middlebury Annex.
We have a facility in East Middlebury, which is housed in the community house called the Sarah Partridge Library. And it's been going for a number of years. And Mona Rogers is the librarian there. And they operate 10 hours a week, and Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And we invite folks to come over there because it's a wonderful facility that tries to stay up with the new books, children's books, and a selection of other materials.
And all this information can be found on your website, which has a new opening page there.
Yeah, new look. Yes, we're very pleased with that. Chris Kirby, our technology staff member, has redesigned that. And of course, we're at www.ilsleypubliclibrary.org.
And of course, we have a link over to, I think we've had a link to your website for quite a while now. You can go to infocusvt.com, and there's a link right to the Ilsley right there.
And if you can spell Ilsley, that's the hardest part.
That is.
That's the hardest part.
Why don't you give us that spelling? Just so we can say that we got that covered.
Let me think if I can remember it. It's I-L-S-L-E-Y.
There we go. He's back off to his office down the stairs here at the Ilsley.
Thanks so much, Jerry.
David Clark, Director of the Ilsley Public Library. Again, go to infocusvt.com, our website, for a link over to the Ilsley and more information on all their wonderful services, hours, contact information, you name it. They got a lot of stuff there. And we have a lot of stuff here, too. When we come back, we're going to find out about the world of compost, recycling. From the Addison County Solid Waste Management District, we'll be talking with Don Maglienti as INFOcus People and Places continues right after these.
This is Liza Sekeli-Lloyd from the Mahaney Center for the Arts, and these are the arts listings for this week. The Middlebury Community Wind Ensemble performs in the Mahaney Center for the Arts in the Concert Hall on Friday, April 11th at 7 o'clock. It's free. Middlebury Student Chamber musicians play along 19th century American landscape photographs in Eloquent Music on Saturday, April 12th at 3 o'clock in the Middlebury College Museum of Art. It's free. The Hirschfield International Film Series presents the acclaimed documentary Iraq in Fragments on Saturday, April 12th at 3 o'clock and 8 o'clock in Dana Auditorium. Both screenings are free and open to the public. Acclaimed collaborative pianist and Middlebury Applied Music faculty member Cynthia Huard steps into the spotlight for a solo program of music by Beethoven, Schumann, Ravel, and Lieberson on Saturday, April 12th at 8 o'clock in the Mahaney Center for the Arts Concert Hall. It's free. Music Department affiliate artist Miles Donahue and special guests present a jazz concert on Saturday, April 13th, featuring Joey Calderazzo of the Branford Marsalis Group. It's at 7 o'clock in the Mahaney Center for the Arts Concert Hall, and it's free and open to the public. On Thursday, April 17th, Dance and Environmental Studies professor Andrea Olson gives a performance and discussion called Arts and the Environment at 12:30 p.m. in the Mahaney Center for the Arts Dance Theater. It's free and lunch is provided. Also on Thursday, April 17th, artist Lena Brunza gives a public talk at 7 p.m. in Twilight Hall. It's free. That same night, the Mahaney Center for the Arts hosts a spring piano recital by the students of Diana Fanning at 8 o'clock in the concert hall. It's on Thursday, April 17th, and it's free and open to the public. Senior Teddy Chryselius presents his senior work in a double bill evening of theater called Undercurrents, playing Thursday, April 17th through Saturday, April 19th in the Hepburn Zoo. Tickets are $1. For tickets or information, call us at 802-443-MIDD or visit us online at www.middlebury.edu/arts. For INFOcus, this is Liza Sekeli-Lloyd. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back. As promised, we're going to learn all about the world of composting right now. And yes, the king of composting, the program coordinator with the Addison County Solid Waste Management District, Don Maglienti, joins us. And you brought along some friends.
Yeah.
R2D2 and C3PO.
That's right.
But you've got
the bots.
You've got the little containers here. We've got the kitchen composter. We've got the big composter, and you even brought a friend of theirs a barrel.
The ubiquitous trash can.
A trash can.
Yep.
And it's actually full of something.
It is.
Maybe we'll find out what that is later.
Can you smell it yet? No.
I'm starting to smell some coffee grinds in this
Well,
one.
I was wondering. Collector.
Collector.
Not to confuse people with the purpose of this one, which is really just to collect your kitchen scraps.
Then you would dump it into the composter. There we go.
Bingo.
You know, I am feeling like I'm in school. We're going to be educated today about the world of composting.
Yeah.
Don, first of all, why don't you talk a little bit for people not familiar with you? You've been on the program several times before. Just what you do as program coordinator, and what is the Solid Waste District all about?
Well, the Solid Waste District is we're a municipal entity with 19 member towns, and our mission is to reduce waste and promote recycling and waste reduction, and also assist with the safe and environmentally sound disposal of solid waste. We have, in the past, we've always promoted composting as a means of taking care of a good portion of your solid waste and keeping it out of the landfill, and at the same time creating useful product. There are some other things that we do at the station. We collect a lot of wastes that are problem wastes that people don't know what to do with, like tires, scrap metal. We collect household hazardous waste 4 days a week, and clean wood. We'd have a clean wood program, leaf and yard waste. And we also take bulky debris. If you have an old sofa, we'll take that at our transfer station in Middlebury. And we also have a couple of reuse programs there as well, where we take reusable household goods and reusable building materials. So we have a wide variety of programs that we offer there. And all of that, I guess you'll have our website. That's all on our website.
Yes, just go to infocusvt.com. We have a link right over to the Solid Waste District site, and understand a lot of the stuff you're going to be talking about today, you are going to be putting onto that website, so people can go there after the program and maybe even download some stuff too.
Yep.
And you've mentioned a number of the reasons to compost. Saves landfill space, saves money, also reduces global warming and air pollution, and improves the soil health.
Yeah, the compost is about, well, I should say food waste that comes out of your kitchen. Usually it's about 15, I've heard as much as 20% of your waste that you put in your trash can, and that's going to a landfill. I think it's best to look at that food waste as a resource. And once you start seeing it that way, you'll realize that you really get into this composting thing. You don't want those banana peels, those apple cores, the scrap celery bits, and all the stuff that comes out of your kitchen after a typical meal. You don't want to send that off. You don't want to send that packing halfway across the state.
Right.
When this is valuable material that you can turn into a soil amendment, and once you've produced your first batch of compost and screened it, you'll never go back. You'll be hooked, as I am.
And you work with it all the time.
I do, yeah. My own system, but we, on a larger scale, we also are working with stores to begin composting commercial food waste as well. But my main thing here is that it's very simple to do at home.
Very simple to do at home. I mean, you do have I guess you could say, the factory-made composters and collectors, but people can use their own things at home. I mean, they can make some homemade composters and collectors.
Exactly. The bins that we sell, we're selling this year the Soil Saver for $40, which is a real bargain if you go around and look. It's really nothing more than a plastic shell to give the compost pile a little bit of shape, a little bit of retain some of the dimension that you want, which is about a 3 by 3 by 3 foot pile. That's the optimal size for backyard composting, which will help to retain some of that heat. And also, if the pile is more of a cone shape, or mounded up somewhat rather than just being a flat pile, it'll shed just about the right amounts of water, and you'll have composting happening. No matter what you use, composting will happen. You can't stop it. If you think about organic matter falling from trees in on the forest floor, composting happens naturally. It's been happening forever. Stuff is going to break down. The only thing you're doing when you compost at home in a bin system is you're just trying to speed up the process. A bin is going to retain a little more of the heat and a little more of the moisture, and by turning it once in a while, you'll increase the speed at which that happens. One of the things we advocate is being a lazy composter, and I'm about as lazy as they come, Jerry. So if I can do this, anyone can do this. And it's really, they say for turning your compost, once a week is really great. If you're like me, twice a year, but it's just going to take longer.
Right, right. But you're not in a hurry.
I'm not in a hurry.
Apparently.
No, I'm in no hurry.
Now, another key thing with composting is location, location, location.
Yeah.
It's how do you pick a good spot? Where is a good location to compost?
Well, if you look at your backyard, try and pick a place, number one, that's pretty well drained. You don't want to put it on a spot where water accumulates or puddles, or if you've got a swale where water fills up and runs through. You want to keep a spot that's fairly dry and well drained. And really with the sun and the shade, that doesn't matter so much. I've heard people say that it's got to be in the sun so it'll generate heat. Well, most of the heat from your compost is going to come from within the bin. Very little sunlight is actually going to do much to the interior of the pile. It's almost acting as an insulator, all that pile. So part sun, part shade is fine in a well-drained area. Try and keep it, if you're going to maintain it in a spot for a long time, maybe keep it away from some trees so the roots don't grow up into it, or move it around once in a while.
Do you want to protect it from animals?
You should try and evaluate if animals will be a problem. However, if you're keeping out all the meat, the bones, and the fish, and fats, oils, that kind of stuff, you shouldn't have too much trouble with animals. Right. And I say that, and then last year I had my first experience with a determined raccoon in my bin. So he actually got his little fingers and was opening up the doors and reaching in and grabbing what he could.
Maybe he was turning it for you.
He was, in a way, yeah. He was helping, but some people may not be so keen on that. There are ways around that, though, and if people are having problems, we can help diagnose. Sometimes a piece of hardware cloth across the bottom will help. You can get as fancy as putting a fence around it, but even just a couple of big rocks, put a rock on the lid if you have something coming. But most of the time, if you're keeping out the meats, the fish, and the bones, and the oils, and keep it to mostly just vegetable scraps or stale breads. You can even put pasta in there with a little bit of sauce on it, as long as it's not a creamy Alfredo with lots of meatballs, you'll be all right. And you can experiment with that. And the other thing about keeping the meat out is you want to keep those pathogens out of your compost. A pathogen is a disease-causing organism, and you don't really want those in your bin. It's not going to generate, backyard composting will not generate enough heat to destroy pathogens. You've got to do it on a large commercial scale to do that. Mm-hmm. So by keeping the meat out, you're keeping it disease-free, essentially.
All right, for people who are, just beginners when it comes to composting, you've talked about what to keep out. Let's review kind of what can go in.
Right. If you're going to build your pile, once you've selected your site, you want to layer your pile with about 50% by weight of greens to browns. And if you can see, I don't know, the thing behind me here shows what greens and browns are made out of. But your greens are going to be your nitrogen source, mm-hmm. and your browns are your carbon source. And your nitrogen source is your wet, smelly stuff from your kitchen. That's the heavy stuff. So every time you dump in a slug of the wet stuff from your kitchen collector here, you're going to put in a couple of great big handfuls of leaves to offset that, or straw, some kind of a dry brown carbon source, and half by weight of greens to browns, and layer it. And then once in a while, give it a turn, and that'll activate it.
All right, once you've stirred it, maybe 2-3 times a year or more, depending on how lazy you are.
Yep.
Okay, what is the end product? I mean, what can the compost be used for? What is the mission of having compost?
Well, the compost really is a humus material for your soil, and it helps your soil retain water, and it also adds lots of great plant available nutrients to the soil. Mm-hmm. So if you've got a very clay-rich soil like I have in my backyard, you can even just, if you screen it fine enough, you can spread it, rake it right into your lawn, and it'll do wonders for your lawn. Or you can certainly incorporate it right into your garden, and you'll have the best crop that year. Mm-hmm. You'll know that the compost is finished when you start turning it and you see, when you can't recognize any bits of food in there anymore. It'll all kind of turn the same brownish color. Mm-hmm. You can either use it then directly, or you can do like I do and screen it. I built a fairly simple screen with just a 2x4 frame and some hardware mesh. And I sized it to fit over my wheelbarrow and throw it right on there and shake it like an archaeologist. Right. It comes out beautiful. But if you don't want to go through all that trouble, you can certainly just use it clumpy and chunky, as long as you can't really recognize the food.
Well, let's have you get up and give us a quick tour of the compost unit here. These are for sale at the Addison County Solid Waste Management District. You can find out more information by going to our website. So maybe you can kind of aim that at the camera here, and we can see what it looks like inside.
There we go. So the Soil Saver is just it's made out of recycled plastic. We sell it for $40. It's got a very simple locking lid, and the unit itself is just a shell, and I'll lift it so you can see. I don't know if you can see that, but there's no bottom to it. And the reason for that, and I'll mention this, is what you want is your pile to be sitting right on the ground. Because what does the work in your compost pile is all those macro and microorganisms that creep up in there. They're not in your celery when you take it out of your kitchen. Mm-hmm. They've got to come from somewhere. So if you put your compost on a concrete slab or in a barrel with no way of getting it to the ground, not many of those organisms are going to make it in. So it's really just an empty shell. It's got little doors, but I often say the doors are kind of gimmicky. I don't use the doors myself. The easiest way to turn the pile is to simply loosen it,
to shake it,
lift it right off the pile, set it down next to it, and pitchfork it right back in through the top again, and that's enough to get it going.
All right.
And what you'll find is you need a lot of carbon every year, and so people who compost, they're always looking for leaves. What I say is rake up a big pile of leaves next to it in the fall and save those until next fall. Or so I take a garbage can and I fill it. These are leaves from my box elder, and I rake those up in the fall, and I've got a big stockpile of those. Mm-hmm. And I use those right through the summer. And if you run out, you can always run out and get a bale of straw or hay.
And something else that, as we've mentioned, that is available at the Solid Waste District is the kitchen collector here. So,
And we have those for $10. Yeah.
all right. And for more information, I understand that a lot of this information up here, how to build your own composter, that will be available at your website as well. Just go to infocusvt.com. And there's a link right over to your site, and you can get more information. If people have any crisis with their composters, their kitchen collectors,
Yep.
you are the guy to call.
We'd be happy to talk to them, yeah.
And what's that phone number down there?
It's 388-2333.
And you're located on Route 7 South,
Yes, we are.
between Rosie's and the old State Police Barracks,
Yep.
which I think is now Middlebury Sowenvac, something like that.
We're right next to the Forest Service Ranger Station.
There you go, on Route 7 South here in Middlebury. Don Maglienti, Program Coordinator. He has been here educating us all about the world of compost. And we want to thank him for joining us when we come back. Yeah, that's right, we're not done yet. On the way, in our final segment today, before we close things out, we'll be talking about the Middlebury Police Canine Unit. That would be the dog Blade. We're going to meet Blade and his owner, master, and fellow Middlebury police officer, Officer George Merkel, when we come back on In Focus, People and Places. Hi everyone, this is Germain, host of In Focus, People and Places, and got a great meal here in the midst of it, but I want to take out a few moments to let you know what's coming up next week on the program. Well, speaking of food, you're picking a great time to join the show next week because we're going to be talking food. We're actually going to be creating food on the program. Ben of all trades, Ben Vessa, will be joining us. We'll actually be joining him in his kitchen where he will be cooking up a terrific stay-at-home, budget-conscious, basic meal. Something that you and I could put together with a budget on a shoestring. So join us for that. That should be really cool. Also, speaking of cool things, the Vermont State Horse, the Morgan Horse, will be in the spotlight as we trek on out to join Steve Davis, who is director of the UVM Morgan Horse Farm in Weybridge. We'll take a little tour of that establishment out there. You probably have driven by, seen the monument with the big Morgan horse on it, wondered what goes on in there. Well, we're going to show you. We'll go behind the scenes with the Morgan horses and the students and the director, Steve Davis, out at the Morgan Horse Farm. And last but certainly not least, ACAG, Addison County Community Action Group, has changed their name to HOPE. We'll find out what that stands for. They got a name change, but really the mission stays the same. They're helping people out there in need in Addison County. We'll be joined by the executive director of HOPE, Jean Montross, on the program. All that and a whole lot more. And keep in mind the food coming up with Men of All Trades next week on In Focus, People and Places. Now I'm getting back to the food. Good. Welcome back, everyone. We're in the MCTV studios, In Focus, People and Places. And as promised, we have a large police officer and a large police dog invading the studio. It's a friendly invasion, though.
That it is.
Officer George Merkel and Blade join us from the Middlebury Police Department. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. Our pleasure.
Yeah. And Blade looks very relaxed.
Yeah, he's definitely relaxed.
He knows I'm harmless. I'm scared anyways. George, Officer Merkel, how long you been with the Middlebury Police Department?
This will be my 10th year full-time, and if you include my part-time service for the town, it'll be my 11th year.
Okay, and how long with Blade?
We hooked up as partners in 2003, I believe it was, and this is going to be his third year, completing his third year under the Police Community Projects program, which is the way he was brought into the department.
And you were very much responsible for that. Talk a little bit, give us a little background on how you brought Blade to the Middlebury Police Force.
Well, I met Blade when he was partners with Trooper George Rodriguez of the New Haven Barracks. George and I are pretty good friends, and I met Blade down at the old barracks building, and I was very impressed with the dog. He's a good-looking animal, and I just
I'm a dog lover myself, but I was particularly interested in being a canine handler.
Right.
And I had expressed interest to George. I told him that if in the event he became, or he was activated to go on active duty to go to Iraq or wherever in the Middle East, if nobody else wanted Blade, I would take him. And I approached Chief Hanley about it, and Chief Hanley gave me my marching orders, said basically that I would have to put the program together solely on donations, and it would have to run under the auspices of a 3-year pilot program, at the end of which time the town would evaluate it and deem it whether it was fruitful or worthwhile or not. And so I got Blade. Blade and I, from the Vermont Police Canine Association. Blade and I became partners. We went through drug detection school first, narcotics detection, and then we went through patrol school together, patrol certification, and here we are.
And I understand you're still going through training. It's sort of an ongoing process.
Training is an ongoing process. Every month we have 1 day of patrol, 1 day of drugs, drug training, and there's a certification period in the springtime for patrol, and there's a certification period in December for narcotics. Patrol is a broader term for officer protection, evidence recovery, tracking, building clearing, and he does pretty well with that.
Now, Officer Merkel, what are some of the reasons to have a dog as part of the police force, part of a police force in general? I mean, what are some of the advantages of having a canine unit?
Well, the canine unit brings a lot of things to the table. It really does. First and foremost, you have a tremendous asset available to you that will allow you to detect narcotics, whereas you and I would not be able to pick that up. Dog has a very keen sense of smell. It's magnified, I don't know how many thousands of times. And a dog is able to pick up those odors, or detect those odors, alert on them, tell the officer by his behavior, and that's one of the things you learn when you go through the school. And if the dog exhibits that behavior, based on that, you can apply for a search warrant. That gives you probable cause for a search warrant to search a car or whatever.
Right. How has Blade adjusted to working with you and working here in Middlebury?
Well, he's adjusted pretty well. He's definitely a lot calmer than he used to be. But as you can see right now, he's pretty mellow. But if you put him in his car, he lights up a little bit. He's back on duty, and he's very protective of the car and me. He's done well with the people in town. I think he's pretty much become as I call him, the mayor of Middlebury. The kids love him. He goes around town. He's welcome in all the stores, and it's nice when you're walking down the street and people drive by in the car and they see the dog and they give you a thumbs up or you get a smile, and that gives you that hook with people that normally may not approach a police officer or have any interaction with a police officer, because everybody loves dogs, or pretty much everybody likes dogs.
Certainly.
Blade has given us, or given me and us, that hook, as I say, with young kids. He's a pretty good deterrent for narcotics, although they're here and people still try to find ways to get around us. He's also great for officer protection. We haven't had that many opportunities to use him, or for him to display his trade in that case, but he does.
Middlebury certainly is not much of a combat zone.
Well, no, it's not. And but there are times I'm sure that something may have gone a little bit beyond what it did.
Certain situations.
But the dog certainly prevents that, or makes people think twice. And like I say, he's done good things for us. We've had instances where a young fellow was hit by a car out in front of the Middlebury Inn. I gave him one of the cards that was donated to the program, and with Blade's picture on it, and Blade went up to the emergency room afterwards and saw the kid. The kid was laying on a gurney, had a broken leg, and I think it brightened his day up. So, I mean, those are the kind of things that, you don't go to school for that, but if you use the dog in the right way, it's a tremendous asset. How
much training did Blade have with Officer Rodriguez, or even before Officer Rodriguez? How does a dog become a police dog?
Well, Blade was given to the state police, I believe, by a family in Montpelier, and Trooper Rodriguez got the dog. And what the senior handler will do is do an evaluation to see if the dog is going to be suitable. Not every dog is suitable for police work. They have some certain criteria the dog has to meet, and Blade certainly met those. And he and Trooper Rodriguez went through the patrol school, which is a lengthy school. I think it's 16 weeks, and then there's an 8-week narcotics detection school. So they obviously made it through all those schools, and they became a team. Now, when Blade and I became a team, Blade was already trained. I'm the one that had to learn the system. And I went back through, and Blade and I became certified.
Talk about home life. Now, he lives with you?
He does.
I mean, he's part of your family. I mean, is he your dog? Or, I mean, he's a part of the Middlebury Police Department, but he is your dog.
Well, I think if you ask any of the guys down in the office, they all feel like Blade. Everybody has a little ownership in Blade. He's made himself quite a home down there in the office, and everybody from the chief down to the Mr. Mike comes around and does the janitorial work, has made friends with Blade. But he's done very well. He's become part of the department, and everybody loves him. Now, as far as coming home with me, he is my dog. He comes home at night. I have 2 other dogs. He gets along great with them. We have a cat. He gets along great with the cat. He gets along well with most everybody. But he does have his protective side. You know, he's very much protective of his home. And but once you're at the house and everything is okay, then Blade is just like any other dog.
He's got the police officer in him.
He does. He does.
He has his own baseball card.
He does. He has his own
I
baseball
don't even
card.
have my own baseball card, but Blade does.
This is Blade's baseball card. These were graciously donated to the program by Tom Scanlon. And Tom is a former police officer from, I think, Bridgeport, Connecticut. He's very supportive of the police department here in town. Also a good friend of mine. And Tom donated a fair sum of money to have these cards printed up. They're printed up by Mint Cards, and on the front you have Blade's picture, and he's a very patriotic dog.
Got the American flag there.
And on the back has his name and a little biography and his personal message, which is he doesn't like drugs, and drugs are for losers. And our contact information, and these have been invaluable also, like with that young fellow that was hit by the car in front of Middlebury Inn. And I mean, these cards have gone anywhere from Florida to Canada. And it's just nice to be able to hand these things out because it's another positive.
I would imagine, you know, that these things would come in handy. Let's say you go into Mary Hogan School. I mean, I'm sure you've visited area schools.
Yep. Not as many as I'd like, but we have been in some of the schools, and it's done very well. And Blade is a good ambassador for the Middlebury Police Department when he goes into any school. We give presentations down the police academy. We've gone to the Stafford Career Center for emergency services training for some of the kids down at St. Joseph the Provider. We've been to Middlebury Union High School and a couple other places too. Mill River High School.
What is the most commonly asked question when you talk with young people?
Is he yours? Does Blade belong to you? Is he friendly? There's another one. That's pretty much it. You know, people just like, you know, he's a big dog. You know, he's a big guy, and he's pretty much a friendly fellow, and people just like to be able to go up and pet a police dog.
Most challenging thing working with a dog? With maybe working with Blade? Most challenging?
I think the most challenging part of it was me learning to read Blade. Blade isn't difficult to read, but it's a matter of an officer becoming, you know, kind of like one unit with the dog. It's you know, become partners, and I know how to read Blade. I know what he's thinking and what he's doing when I see him act a certain way, and vice versa. If I have a raise in inflection in my voice, and Blade knows that something's going on that he needs to pay extra special attention to, and he seems to have this ability to pick out those people that may present a danger or a threat to me or to others. And he's not only protective of me, he's protective of the other guys in the department. When we're at home and people roughhousing, he certainly gets protective there too, but he understands that's family. But I think it's learning how to read the dog. And like I say, Blade was fairly easy, but you know, you have to work that. You have to work within the guidelines of being a canine handler.
Sure. Now, you were a dog person going into this. You already
Yes, I
had
was.
some dogs at home. What have you learned working with Blade to add to your knowledge of canines?
They're a lot smarter than you think they are. And dogs can read you like a book, and they can also train you. They will learn your behavior, and they will work accordingly. Blade is, excuse me, an extremely intelligent dog, and he reasons. And I didn't know if that was possible or not, but the dog definitely thinks beyond. He thinks outside the box. He's capable of figuring something out.
Most amazing thing about Blade? Anything surprise you?
Well, Blade has two different personalities. He has his work personality and his off-time personality. And Blade is very capable of throwing that switch on and off. To have a dog can be so aggressive and so forceful, if you want to use that term, for lack of a better term. And then, like I say, at home, he thinks nothing of crawling up on top of the Tempur-Pedic mattress and going to sleep. You know, he has that ability to throw the switch on and off very quickly. And even though he's off duty, he's always on duty. He's always watching to pay attention to see what's going on.
How was your family adapted to having Blade?
At first, everybody was a little afraid of him because Blade had a reputation of being a tough guy, and he still does. But once everybody realized that Blade is who he is and how he acts, everybody's pretty much comfortable with him. We have kids come up to the house all the time, and everybody pretty much knows Blade.
All right, I warned you earlier. I was going to ask you for most memorable moment, and you mentioned to me that you have a couple of working with Blade.
I think the most memorable, one of the things that makes me smile is when that young fellow was, not that he was hit by the car, but when he saw Blade, the kid was obviously in pain, and the dog made him smile, kind of took that pain away from him for a few minutes. You know, and that's in itself is worth all the time and effort you put into the dog. And a week later, we got a nice picture the kid drew of Blade and I, and Blade got a nice rawhide bone and a couple of biscuits and a nice thank you letter. So that was pretty nice. And Blade's always also distinguished himself as far as finding narcotics, and there was one episode where we had some fellows that were thinking about giving Officer Hawkins and I a rough time at the time, and Blade quickly convinced them that that probably wasn't a good thing to do. And that was without any commands. Blade did that on his own. He just spun and kept people at bay, and nothing ever happened.
Now, I mean, I'm sure that there is a special bond between you two. I mean, have you ever had any times when you were concerned about Blade's safety? Is that something that's always on your mind when you're out there?
Yeah, I think it.
And I'm sure vice versa too. He's concerned about you.
Yeah, he's definitely mission oriented, and if somebody does something that's inappropriate or wrong, and he's given the command, he's going to put himself in harm's way. And likewise, I'm very close to him, and if he goes, I go, and I protect him like he protects me.
Yeah, we know that this is Middlebury, Vermont, you know, small town community, rural, and we haven't had a lot of serious crime, but it seems like it has increased over the past several years. You've got more serious crimes occurring all the time, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more opportunities for you and Blade out there to come into harm's way at some point.
Hopefully everything comes with a peaceful and safe conclusion for everybody involved.
Yes.
That's the ultimate goal, is to make sure that we lessen the likelihood of injury or worse. But it's Vermont's changing, and Middlebury is changing, and we've had a couple of instances in the past where it's been some violent crime, and unfortunately, I think it's coming.
Yeah. All right. On a broader view, let's talk a little bit about the Middlebury Police Department. If one was to come up to you on the street and just throw out the phrase Middlebury Police Department, Officer George Merkel, what would your response be? What's your first thought when talking about the organization you work for?
Well, it's definitely a department that's community policing oriented. I think we're a very proactive department, professional department. Chief Hanley's done an excellent job putting together a good group of people with a broad spectrum of skills. We have a tremendous forensics, i.e. an officer who can type classify fingerprints, fingerprint analysis. We have a lab that is second to none in the state, and an officer there who's quite capable of doing crime scene processing and whatnot. That's Officer Jason Covey. We have a good investigator in Officer Bo. We have firearms instructors, self-defense instructors. We have the canine program. The chief doesn't just have police officers. He has people that have 2 or 3 additional skills, and that's important for a small town department. We also have a group of people that have been together for a long time, and that's an asset in itself, because then you get to know your community. We are a small town.
Right.
We know everybody knows us, and that helps when it comes time to solving crimes. I'm pretty proud of my department, and I think we've done real well for ourselves.
And I'm sure you've got to be proud of the fairly new facility that you have now.
It's a beautiful facility.
Lucius Shaw Lane.
It's beautiful. It certainly makes your working conditions a lot better than they used to be, and it makes them a lot safer too for everybody involved. And I think it's definitely an asset to the town.
You've got the dog now. You accomplished that, and it seems to be going well. What would be on Officer Merkel's wish list now? Or are you happy with the way things are right now? I'm putting you on the spot, I know.
No, I'm pleased with where we are right now. I think he and I have, more hurdles to cross as far as becoming better at our job. I'm never going to be happy with the narcotics that are in our town. Sure. I'm not happy with the fact that our kids and some adults are using them, and it's majority of the crime we run into is pretty much, there's a common thread between the crime and narcotics involvement. I don't like narcotics, and I don't like what they do to our kids, and I don't like what they do to our community. And I'll be happy when I really start seeing, we're making some good progress, but I'd like to see a lot more. Personally, I love being a canine handler. There's nothing I'd rather do. I've been blessed. I've had a fairly good experience so far with the department, and I think we're going to do a lot more better things.
More dogs in the future for the Middlebury Police Department?
I don't know if we'll ever go to another dog, an additional dog. We may. I'm sure the department's going to grow over time, and dogs are a tremendous asset, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to have another dog on, but that's in the future. But I think every department in the state should have a dog. It gives you another officer for officer protection, and it gives you the assets of, drug interdiction. And the dog gives you that tool that you normally wouldn't have just with a regular police officer. There's other things involved. There's things that the officer has to see in order to get to that point. But then when you have that dog, that's the one that's pretty much seals the deal.
So the public out there, if they want to come up to you and say hi to Blade and hi to you and get to know both of you, no hesitations?
No hesitation at all. The only thing I ask people to do is always, like any dog, Blade's no different than any other dog, you should always ask the owner or the handler, can I pet the dog? And Blade is, a protective animal. He doesn't know who people are. You just, ask me if they can do that. And Blade he's just like any other dog at that point in time. He will look to me. Sometimes Blade will actually look at me to see, is it okay? And if I tell him it's okay, it's okay. And people can approach him. You can pet him. Obviously you don't ever put your face near a dog if you don't know the dog. But other than that, he's a pretty good guy.
Man's best friend.
Well, he is. There's no two ways about that. He's about as good of a partner as I could ask to have.
I guess we could call him Middlebury's best friend.
That he is too. He's
and you're right behind that. You're second.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Officer George Merkel, before we let you go, before we close things out for this time around on INFOcus People and Places, I know the war on narcotics, eliminating it from the streets of Middlebury, near and dear to your heart. Maybe a message to parents out there, a message to people, viewers in general, about your thoughts.
Well, I would have to say, be a parent first and be a friend second. Being a parent is tough. I have 4 children of my own. I know At times things can be very trying, but you've got to be a parent. You've got to make kids do things sometimes that they don't want to do. You got to ask the questions. If you think there's something askew, there's that intuition, and moms have it more so than dads, but you know, they say police officers' intuition. If something seems wrong, then it probably is. You know, ask that question. You're a parent, you have the responsibility to ask your kids where they're going to be, what time they're going to be home, what they're going to be doing, whose house they're going to be at, are the parents home? And sometimes you have to make those tough decisions and saying no. And just don't take a carte blanche that this is that, because kids are kids. There's a lot of peer pressure out there. There's a lot of pressure to do things that are inappropriate for kids to do. And you've got to keep an eye on your kids. You've got to keep an eye on your kids and just make sure that everything is good to go.
And stay involved in their lives.
Stay involved in their lives. Spend that time with the kids. You know, get involved in their schoolwork. Get involved in their sports and whatnot. Be involved with the kids. You know, that's probably the most important thing. And tell them you love them, but also you got to do the things to prove that you love them. That's sometimes not exactly the easiest thing to do.
I think that's a great way to close today. Officer George Merkel, Blade, keep up the great work. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure and an honor to have you here. All right, one of Middlebury's finest, and Blade, Officer George Merkel, joining us today. Thank you so much for tuning in again, and we want to thank not only George and Blade for being here, but also Don Maglienti, as we learn more about compost and some good advice on recycling there. And of course, the director of the Ilsley Public Library, in which we are located on the 3rd floor today here in the studios of MCTV in the Ilsley Public Library. David Clark joining us, telling us all about the latest news from your favorite local library, the Ilsley. And a quick reminder, go to www.infocusvt.com. New web address there. Get used to it. Again, that's infocusvt.com for more on this show, past shows, current shows, and future shows of In Focus People and Places. Check it out, and of course we encourage your communication with us, your e-letters and suggestions and comments. Always gratefully appreciated. Again, thank you for tuning in today. That's going to do it for this edition of In Focus People and Places. I'm your host, Jerry Germain. Until next time, take care.